Welcome back, everybody, to the CV Central Podcast. I'm your host, Jay.
I'm your host, Chris.
Hey, we're back. We were out for a minute. We both got sick. Obviously, I was able to upload our last podcast episode last week, but now we got our wonderful co-host here. There's a lot to get into, obviously, because we were out for a minute. But I want to start with the NBA playoffs. So that's what we're going to start with. So, Pacers 4-1 the Cavs after 4-1ing the Bucks. Where is the Pacers in terms of the East? Do you see them ahead of the Knicks or the Celtics? Because me personally, I think the Pacers are right in the middle. I think Knicks are the top team. I think the Pacers are the second best team. And I think, obviously, with the unfortunate Achilles injury to Tatum, Celtics plummet to the bottom.
I think definitely like outside looking in before they even finished the series, right? They were definitely the underdog in that matchup. I think a lot of people just imagined that Cleveland would blitz through them, and the Pacers just look like a really complete team. I also have them as the second best team in the East as well, because of just how well-rounded they are. You look at the talent that's on that team, they may not be star-filled. Like you think outside of Halliburton and Siakam, they got really just guys on the team, but they're guys that are sufficient at their role. Like you got Mathurin, Neesmith,
Nembhard. And honestly, shout out to Miles Turner.
Him too, yeah.
He has been through the lows. He has been through the highs of all the Pacers team. I believe he was there during the Oladipo years.
Yeah. They're definitely one of those teams too that are capitalizing on the fact that they have a solid center.
Yeah, and I was talking to my one of our friends about this. I know you saw it in the basketball group chat we have, but I believe Halliburton is officially a better pacer than Paul George.
I agree. I think too. Just obviously, there's a different expectation because Paul George was a drafted player and Halliburton was traded, but. Yeah, Halliburton's definitely to replace in a deal which was basically him for Sabonis. Sabonis being the face of the team at that time. It was a fair swap. I think that's one of those trades that definitely did ended up working out for both teams. And to see the Pacers where they're at now, they've drafted well, they've built around that team well, and Halliburton is the cornerstone to it. And I'm looking at it as they'll most likely match up with the Knicks, and I think a solid guard matchup is what we're going to be seeing between Halliburton and Brunson.
Yeah. So now let me go over to the Knicks series. Celtics saved the Knicks from advancing to the conference finals after a Jaylen Brown, where is it? 26 points. Derek White, 34 points. Holiday, 14. Pritchard, 17. Cornette had 10. Al Horford had 12. With the injury to Jason Tatum, what chance do you give the Celtics still?
I honestly still give them a solid chance. If we're talking percentages, obviously with Tatum, they're looking like at a 50, maybe 60% chance of winning the series. Even without Tatum, I give them anywhere from 50% to 45%. Like, it's still a chance because Jaylen Brown, when his number is called, especially in the playoffs, he does step up a lot better than Tatum does. And now, not that Tatum hinders Jaylen Brown, but with Jaylen Brown being to come out and be the star that we know he can be and be the de facto leader of the team, he gets to step up in competition. I think he'll push the series. I still give it up to the Knicks, though, just because the Knicks just seem more well-rounded.
Not only that, the Knicks just seem like, even with Tatum playing, the Knicks just seem like they wanted it more.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been in a drought for so many years, and they finally have built a team.
I believe the last championship Knicks had was the 72-73 season, I believe, with Walt Frazier.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a long time.
It's as far as like who the potential Final Four can be, it's very guard heavy. You got SGA and Anthony Edwards in the West. Obviously, the OKC and Denver game is currently playing right now, and it looks like Denver is going to push them to a game 7. But if OKC ultimately wins, I know I had this in my notes. I think we're looking at 4 players that could potentially make a case to become the next face of the NBA. Obviously, a lot of people dub that over to Anthony Edwards, but with Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, and SGA all on the brink and at his biting at his ankles for that claim, it could all be determined with this finals. Like it doesn't mean like they win this finals for the next 20 years. They're the next face of the league like LeBron, but they do make a case especially if SGA and OKC are able to beat the Wolves and the Anthony Edwards if that ends up ultimately being the matchup.
No.
Actually, another thing I wanted to touch on too, I feel like a lot of teams, especially this year in the playoffs, a lot of the small ball teams haven't been as successful.
No, we saw that with the Lakers and the Timberwolves.
And
When
then
you
you see
when you watch that Lakers Timberwolves series, it was clear and evident that the Lakers were missing that centerpiece.
and you saw it again with the Timberwolves against the Warriors. They're missing that centerpiece. Like
Yeah, Kevon Looney's solid, but
yeah,
he's not the ideal
mhm.
offensive center that you want.
Yeah, and you look at these other teams like I know Chet plays the 4, but he can rotate into the 5.
Yeah.
And OKC has
Then
Hartenstein.
you have the Rockets with Sengun.
Yeah, Sengun, and I think what ultimately was a huge mistake with the Rockets was that they were using 2 centers at the start of the
Yeah,
series, and then for some reason against the Warriors, they decided to match their athleticism against them and stop using the 2 centers, which I think ultimately is what hindered them advancing. But then you look at the Pacers, they got Turner and Siakam. You look at the Knicks, they got Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns. So a lot of center heavy teams. I think the smallest team between the 4 would probably be the Timberwolves, and they have Gobert, but Naz Reid, obviously, he's a good rotational center and 4, but he's just smaller than the
yeah,
other guys as centers.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
I think that might lead to a resurgence of centers back in the NBA because
Possible, but I think centers that can play make.
yeah,
I don't think we're gonna see the Shaq Hakeem
no,
type of centers.
it's definitely more
You
so
you
like
you need
Sengun, more so like
Wemby,
a
Jokic.
Wemby, a Joker, like a guy that can play on the ball, not just off the ball.
Yeah.
Like you got those playmakers that can play off, like Miles Turner. A lot of guys that can go up and rebound chase, because the rest of the starting players kind of pick up the slack. But yeah, I think we might be seeing maybe not by next season, but you might see the end of some small ball teams. A lot of teams are definitely going to look at getting centers now.
Yeah. I think let's see. Okay, last one. Did the injury to Steph Curry hinder the Warriors postseason chances?
Absolutely. Yeah, the fact that he wasn't going to be available until game 6 and the fact that they could get eliminated before that definitely hindered them. Um, I think it also added too much pressure to a guy that kind of crumbles under it. Other than the time that Jimmy Butler was in Miami, which seemed like he was the de facto leader player, right? Um, he doesn't really do well under pressure being the lead guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't trust Draymond to step up for them completely without losing his temper. None of the other young guys on that roster were able to
Yeah,
step up. Like Pods played very well.
no. You thought Pajemski was going to be solid
Mm-hmm,
and be able to step up,
yeah.
but even Pajemski kind of crumbled under the
Mm-hmm.
pressure of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's just when you mess up cores on rosters, like if you're in that position where Curry's hurt now, you just think about like, man, what if we still had Jordan Poole on the roster?
What if we still had Clay on the
What if,
roster?
yeah, what if you still had Clay on the roster? So it could all be so different if you don't mess up cores and guys are willing to stay.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean we saw that with the bubble Lakers.
yeah,
That Lakers team. Say what you want about the bubble. that Lakers team was without a doubt the best team in the entire league.
They were built so well
Yeah,
too.
and then obviously if it wasn't for the AD and LeBron injuries, they probably wouldn't be in the 7th seed the following year.
Yeah, you
And
gotta
then the year after that, they blow up the entire core to get Westbrook.
you got to remember that team was so center heavy as well too, because you have JaVale McGee, you have Dwight Howard, you have Anthony
Yeah,
Davis. So it's just when you look at that team that won a championship to what they are now, like you don't have a center. Like you got Jackson Hayes, and he plays some decent ball. But I think you guys are in a different position if you keep Anthony Davis over Luka Doncic. But that's just my opinion.
yeah. We might actually win a few games
Mhm.
against the Timberwolves if we had AD.
I think before we move on to our next topic, we got to talk about they had the NBA lottery draw. And
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
yeah,
The Mavericks had a 1.8% chance of winning the first overall pick.
hmm
I'm not gonna come out here and say it's rigged,
but
but don't you think it's a little bit of a coincidence? The Magic traded their star player and
Mavericks.
oh, did I say the
You
Magic?
said Magic.
Okay, my bad. Mavericks traded their star player and then they get the first overall pick the following year. Now, obviously, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
When the Pelicans traded Chris Paul, they won the first overall pick the following year. Anthony Davis traded, they ended up getting Zion the first overall pick.
hmm
We've seen it before, but it's just a little questionable.
Yeah, like you can go all the way back to when LeBron's draft. Like he's from Akron, Ohio. All of a sudden, Cleveland has the number
Well,
one pick.
no, not more so that because Cleveland did have a 22% chance at the first overall pick that
Yeah,
year.
but it's just
It's still a coincidence. All right,
yeah.
moving on to the NFL. Do you think at some point Shador starts during the season?
I think because the media will demand of it, yes. I don't think because he necessarily
Mhm.
earns the position. I think there's so much depth in that Cleveland quarterback room. Not saying that Kenny Pickett's better than him, but
Yeah,
they also did
we're gonna
draft.
we're gonna see how it is coming out of OTAs. I know the Browns recently, out of mini camp,
Mhm.
Dylan Gabriel was going in as the quarterback ahead of Shador,
Yeah,
but
it seems like Shador's.
it seems like Shador has
Yeah.
taken that spot over Gabriel. Um, and obviously Kenny Pickett and then Joe Flacco, who's going to win you a few games.
hmm
But Joe Flacco has shown his age has shown at point in times of big games
Yeah.
to where if midway during the season Joe Flacco is underperforming, which you might expect him to do
hmm
because of his age, maybe they pivot to Shador
Yeah.
during the season.
I mean,
We'll see where they are. I
you also
wouldn't.
have to take into account that Watson is still on the roster, whether you like it or not. So,
Well, no,
um,
he still has the torn Achilles, so
yeah,
he's gonna be missing
it's not like
a
he'll
chunk of the
contend.
season.
It's not like he'll contend for the starting quarterback at the
Yeah,
start of the season, but
I think Watson gets released at some point,
definitely.
or he gets traded to a team that doesn't really need a quarterback but can use him. I know possibly the Saints.
I think that quarterback room will go from five quarterbacks to three, and it'll be Flacco, Gabriel, and Shador Sanders.
Yeah,
And
I don't see Kenny Pickett staying
yeah,
on the roster,
Pickett's going to be a guy that
especially
gets cut.
because you have two young rookies who have. I think Shador has a higher ceiling than Gabriel.
hmm
I don't think Gabriel has that high of a ceiling at all. I think Dylan Gabriel's ceiling is possibly just a better Will Levis,
hmm
but Joe Flacco is obviously going to be the starter
Yeah.
coming out of minicamp just because he's the NFL vet.
hmm
But I think Shador is going to go into the season as the backup.
Yeah, I think just like I said, the media is going to claim for it and clamor
Yeah,
for it so much that they're going to want to see Shador Sanders, just off of name value, off of he now goes from a top 10 projected pick to a fifth round pick, which makes him somewhat of an underdog story now. You
yeah,
want to see him do right by himself that the league and the owners didn't do right by him by drafting him sooner. So um, I'm not against Shador Sanders getting starting job. Um, I'm not so high on him, but I can't say that I don't want to see a guy be successful, especially you got lineage when it comes to the league, so it'd be
Mm-hmm.
nice and successful for him. I'm
Yeah.
not happy that he went to the Browns because that's kind of
I
a
think a team like the Saints would have been good.
yeah. The Browns is kind of a young quarterback prospect cemetery, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Now we're just going to get into a little bit of our schedules. So obviously for the Packers, they open the season with Detroit. They go the following Thursday night at home against Washington. Week 4 at Jerry World. Week 6 against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Week 10, I'm looking forward to. That's the playoff rematch Monday night against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then one thing that's weird to me is we don't play the Bears till week 14. And then we play the Broncos the following week, and then the Bears again after the Broncos. And then week 17, we play the Ravens at home. That's going to be a solid game to watch. And then we wrap up the season in Minnesota.
You play the Bears week 16?
We play the Bears week 14 and 16. Yeah.
I'm just looking over the Niners schedule. We'll be playing against the Bears week 17.
Okay, so that's the following
So
weekend.
that could
So
lead
so that
into
means the Bears have to go Green Bay, San Francisco, Green Bay.
hmm
So that'll be interesting to see how the Bears handle that stretch.
and we do play them at home.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how the Bears handle that stretch. But honestly, this schedule is, I don't want to say it's a cakewalk. And I don't want to say it's hard because there are teams like the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Giants. But I mean, obviously, no NFL team is easy to beat.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to say the Packers go 12 and 5. Think the games we will drop are split with the Lions, split with the Bears, we'll split with Minnesota. I think we could drop to Philly, and I think we could drop to Baltimore
hmm
and possibly Washington. So that's 6 losses, 11 and 6. But I think this is the year that Jordan Love has that $50 million season.
Yeah.
I think this is the year. It's time for him to do it. And the Packers, I don't want to say we're going to win the North, but I do give us a solid shot at the North. How are you feeling about the Niners schedule? I know the Niners have a Mickey Mouse schedule of a run.
It's since our opponents have been announced prior to the schedule. It's been clear that we have a very favorable schedule. Um, I think the most toughest games we'll have is in division.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would. I'm not going to say this as a delusional 49er fan because I will keep it real as I have as much as I can on this goddamn podcast when it comes to these 49ers. Um, there's things I would like to see before the season. But as far as the season and where we are as a team and what I know that Robert Saleh could get us to, I see us as a 13 win and 4 loss team.
Yeah.
Just because we have a lot of weak matchups and we can be a powerhouse in the NFC. We usually do lose a lot of games that we don't expect to lose.
Mm-hmm.
There's some teams that are sometimes that look really bad and then they'll capitalize on us because we're riding a high. Usually happens when we do go undefeated. We always end up losing to a team that we're not supposed to lose to.
Mm-hmm.
I want.
I know
I think.
that 2019 season that
Yeah.
lost to the Bears.
Yeah.
It was like 9-3
hmm
or some low scoring game.
Yeah.
I know that loss to the Bears was a game that Niner fans wish they got back.
Yeah. So I'm a fan of the schedule, obviously. Like, I don't want to sit here and bolster it up so much. Like, it's a weak schedule, but at the end of the day, Sunday night, Thursday night, even Saturday nights, Monday nights, you can't count out any NFL team just based on what a schedule looks like.
Yeah,
Like, we just look favorable.
especially Carolina.
hmm
I know. Want to say it was last year during no 2023
hmm
season. when we went on that playoff run, Carolina gave us a run for our money. Bryce Young had 300 yards that game.
He definitely had a resurgence last year too.
Yeah. So now the question for Carolina is, what version of Bryce Young are you getting?
Yeah.
Are you gonna get the rookie season Bryce Young, or are you gonna get the Bryce Young that's climbing towards Alabama Bryce Young?
I think he builds off from his sophomore year going into his
Mm-hmm.
junior year in the NFL. He'll be better. I know I was close to calling him a bust last year, but he definitely proved
I
me
don't
wrong.
think so. I don't think you could label someone a bust until after their third year.
Yeah.
I think first year, second year, third year, let them play it out. But by their fourth year, they should have an identity of who they are in the league.
I know if we've talked about Anthony Richardson a lot on this podcast. If he loses that job to Daniel Jones, he's looking towards being a bust. As far as like numbers being retired, I know Abdul Carter made a case to try to wear number 56, which is obviously
Mm-hmm.
belongs to Lawrence Taylor and is retired by
And
the
then
Giants,
11 trying to get Phil Simms.
which Phil Simms approved, but his family denied it.
Yeah.
So, do you think um, there should be exceptions when it comes for players when it comes to retired numbers? And
Well, obviously there are exceptions. Malik Neighbors, number one. He got number one was retired for the Giants.
mhm,
He got it out of retirement with permission. I
mhm,
think if the I think if the legend allows him to wear the number, then it's okay.
mhm,
Like if you want to wear that number, because obviously Lawrence Taylor made the
mhm,
case. He said 56 is my number. Like make your number
yeah,
because Abdul Carter, I believe, is wearing 51.
mhm,
There's really no one else that wore number 51. Abdul Carter can make that his number.
yeah,
Like when you like obviously we were talking about this earlier, when
mhm,
you think of number 11, you think of Julio Jones.
yeah,
When you think of 88, Michael Irvin.
yeah.
When you think of 84, Randy Moss, they made those their numbers.
I agree with that stance, but I also do think it takes away from like you know
The legacy behind it.
not just the legacy, but like if you say you growing up, favorite player is Clay Matthews. You
Mm-hmm.
through your novice football journey all the way to high school journey, you wear 52 because of Clay Matthews because that's your favorite player.
Mm-hmm.
You eventually want to play in the league. You want to wear your now number, and you can't because it's retired.
Mm-hmm.
So the legacy that you now have in that number kind of goes away. You got to go throw on a new number because it's retired.
Okay. So
So
their own personal legacy.
yeah, so it's kind of like I think it does take away from the new player trying to attempt to fill shoes. Because okay, you could say that Micah Parsons is the next Lawrence Taylor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's not on the Giants, and he doesn't wear 56. He's on the Cowboys, and he wears 11. So what if Abdul Carter wanted to make the case that hey, he's the greatest 56? I also want to be a great 56. He won't get the opportunity because the number's retired.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the Niners. They haven't officially garnered anybody to wear 52. It's not officially retired. If Fred Warner wanted to wear 52, he could wear 52. But he decided to wear his own legacy by taking on 54. In college, he wore 4, so it's kind of a branch from the number that he's already
Mm-hmm.
previously worn. And 49ers usually garner 4 for kickers, so it would have been weird for a middle linebacker to wear number 4.
Well, obviously with the jersey numbers now, if
Yeah,
Fred Warner wanted to, he could pay
yeah.
off. He could pay off for number 4.
I think with
But I think he's too far in with number
mhm,
54, and he cemented himself
yeah,
as the 54 legend in San Francisco
yeah.
to where there's no point in it because he's already cemented his legacy in that number.
I think with the retirements and then also the single digit availability, it kind of messes up like the traditional look of
Mm-hmm.
teams. Like I personally would love if it returned to the original idea. Like the single digit stuff is cool, but to it the fact that a guy can be oh I'm gonna wear 5 this year, and then next year oh I'm gonna wear 1 or I'm gonna wear 80 now. Like you kind of take away from the fan too. Like, oh, I want to wear my favorite player's number. Damn, I got to
Mm-hmm.
go out and buy a new jersey every year because he wants to change his number. So that was just my
Yeah.
stance on it. And then yeah, hopefully he pans out and creates a legacy for himself in number 51.
All right, now we're gonna get into Factor Destroy NFL edition. So the first one, Lions' run comes to an end with the absence of Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson.
I'm gonna go with Destroy because I believe in Dan Campbell, and I believe he has the biggest balls in the NFL as far as all head coaches. His players believe in him. He's instilled a lot of confidence into a guy like Jared Goff, whose previous team, I wouldn't say failed him, but they definitely didn't believe in him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And being a former first overall pick, you didn't see Jared Goff in that light anymore to be like a great quarterback anymore. And Dan Campbell's instilled that in him. I think he'll be able to improve the staff into where the direction that they need to continue going. So yeah, I Destroy. I don't think that not having the OC and DC anymore will hinder him.
All right. Jalen Waddle becomes wide receiver one in Miami this year.
I'll say fact because I don't. I think Tyreek Hill's stay in Miami is on the rise.
I don't think necessarily his stay. I think Tyreek Hill is on the downslope.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously hit his peak,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that roller coaster is just starting. It's starting
Yeah.
to slowly go down.
And with that too, I think that's what will lead to his exit. I think he'll become expendable, and you're obviously going to keep the homegrown guy. And I've been a guy to say I think prior to this podcast that Waddle is a guy that had his development hindered by bringing in Tyreek Hill. It may have added to how dynamic that offense became and another weapon for Tua Tagovailoa, but Waddle was on an uprise as far as a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Hill comes into the room, Waddle becomes a little bit abysmal. They're a decent duo, but when your quarterback is, a couple injuries away from possibly retiring, it hinders the stats. It hinders the look that Waddle was supposed to have. Like Tyreek Hill and Waddle are supposed to contest Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. They're supposed to be one of those great duos, and they don't get to be because of the availability at quarterback. So I do think Waddle, if not with the Dolphins, he's going to be a number one. But I don't think that he'll be the guy leaving that roster.
All right. Third one. The Patriots finish top 2 in the AFC East.
That's tough. It's tough to say in what direction the Dolphins will be in. I don't think they'll give everybody a run for their money. I think to say that the Patriots would be a de facto 2 kind of says that the Jets won't be great, but I trust Justin Fields. I'm a fan of Justin Fields on this podcast. I think the Jets will give the Patriots a run for their money. But I trust Drake May, so I will go with fact. I think they even have the chance to take the number one over the Bills. It's all going to depend on if the Bills continue to be a powerhouse in that division.
Mm-hmm.
But Drake May is a solid quarterback. I don't think he gets enough attention and enough love, especially with the departure of Mac Jones. But you've given that quarterback a lot more confidence.
And also the departure of Joe Milton.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're Drake May, you're like, okay, you traded away Joe Milton. That kind of shows me like you're going all in with me.
Yeah, like the dude that was biting at my ankles that could take this job from me, you took him away and you're believing in me. Okay, now I got to show up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a decent quarterback. So, I think if they're not a de facto 2, they could be a 1.
All right. Fourth one. This is the Trevor Lawrence make it or break it year.
Fact, man. T-Law has proven to be a
average
NFL prospect, and he's not at all close to what Joe Burrow is right now. He's not at all.
He's not what the generational talent at Clemson he was.
No. And does it come down to the fact that he's had a rotation of head coaches? Possibly. Does it come down to the fact that maybe Jacksonville is just not the right fit for him? There's a bunch of teams he could go to. New Orleans needs a quarterback. Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. I wouldn't say throw Trevor Lawrence to Pittsburgh, but the idea of Trevor Lawrence going to New Orleans kind of excites me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is definitely that year, or it'll just be one of those things. He's just going to be the position holder until they find the next guy, and then
Mm-hmm.
you shop him out. But I do think if he doesn't have a successful year this year, which it's all going to pertain on how well Travis Hunter does, because they don't have a number one. They got rid of Christian Kirk. Gabe Davis is not on the roster.
I disagree. BTJ.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Forgot all about BTJ. Definitely the de facto one.
Yeah, and I think also with Travis Hunter's development,
Yeah.
you're not asked to be the wide receiver one.
No. Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you're asked to be cornerback one.
Yeah. It
But then
also
you don't have to be wide receiver one.
also depends on that backfield too. I know they still have ETN back there, and then Tank Bigsby. You know, he's shown to be pretty solid last year.
I'm super high on Bigsby.
So they have a decent duo at running back that they can use. Um, it'll come down to the success, and unfortunately, it'll all be the weight shouldered by Trevor Lawrence. So this could be his exit year. Not out of the league, obviously. Somebody will buy in on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. All right. Michael Strahan's 22 sack record gets broken this year.
It's technically broken. I mean, it's tied. It's tied with TJ Watt. I don't think anybody breaks it.
Okay.
Guys haven't hit 20 in like the last 2 years. I think last year the sack leader had 17. I want to say that was Trey Hendrickson, a guy nobody saw as the sack leader. He got no attention. Who Cincinnati is clearly disrespecting right now by not offering that man a contract extension.
I mean, when you gave half your money to a wide receiver too.
Yeah. So I don't think nobody comes close yet. Guys that could, there's obviously a bunch of solid edge rushers.
I mean, TJ Watt was there.
Yeah. There's TJ Watt. There's Michael Parsons. Myles Garrett is still in the league. I would love for my guy Nick Bosa to make a chase at that record, or at least be somewhere around the 15. I think he broke 10 last year. A down year for him because the dude's getting double teamed because we don't have a solid edge rusher on the opposite side. So we'll see if Michael Williams adds to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I destroy that. I don't think it's getting broken anytime soon.
All right. Dak Prescott has played his last year in Dallas after this year.
Fact. I'm saying that loud enough because, your brother who's a Cowboys fan is in the other room. But yeah, Dak, you didn't bring in Joe Milton for no reason. I'm not saying that Joe Milton is better, but you get a refresh. Obviously, all the veterans on the team are pretty much gone. You don't have Tyron Smith. You don't have Zach Martin on the roster anymore. You have your staples on defense with Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons. Your linebackers are somewhat decent. Like Overshown shown to be pretty solid last year. So the next step is the quarterback. If Dak's not going to be what you need him to be, then you need to get rid of him and you need to shop him for whatever value you can get. So you either release him at the end of the year, save some money, or you let him go to a team that possibly needs a quarterback that is not in line to draft the next prospect. Who does he go to? I don't know, but he's definitely on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tua doesn't finish this season as Miami's starter.
I'm not aware of who the backup quarterback is right now.
As well, I mean, they drafted Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I'm
only gonna go with fact if in the occasion that Tua gets hurt, which in the last couple of years looks likely. Yeah, just straight out of injury, which I would hope.
their backup right now is Zach Wilson.
I'm actually going to go with destroy. I think Tua finishes the year. I think this will be Tua's healthiest year, but I don't know if it'll be one of his best statistical years.
Okay.
I think maybe they've addressed what they've needed to as far as protecting him. Um, yeah, I think he'll have a good healthy year.
Okay. Jaden Daniels finishes top 3 in MVP voting.
If not top two, man. It'll obviously always be uh, chasing Lamar Jackson. Um, he seems to be in the MVP race like since his first one. Um, I think what's going to happen though is due to Saquon making the case that he did last year, you're going to start seeing a lot of more skilled players chase for that MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get a lot more attention on it not just being a quarterback driven award. Not that Jaden Daniels wouldn't deserve it, but I do think that they just need to address a quarterback award and the MVP award. Just because you're the best quarterback does not mean that you're the most valuable player.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a player that does so much for your team and you're the driving force, like a Lamar Jackson, you can run, you can throw. Literally, the team goes as you go. It's different. Um, but yeah, I think you'll see a lot of more skilled players making a case. So
Yeah.
I'll go with fact because it is Jaden Daniels, but I do want to make that case for skilled players. There's going to be a lot of guys making a case for that MVP.
All right. Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat.
Yes. His biggest failures have been keeping to a healthy and um, the fact that Tyreek Hill said that you're one of the best head coaches and that he's going to a quarterback that is better and more accurate than Patrick Mahomes. So you have a lot of negative connotations on you already, thanks to what you've allowed to be put on out by the media, and you bought in early on a lot of defensive players. Jalen Ramsey has not panned out for them. Bradley Chubb did not pan out for them.
No.
Jalen Phillips getting hurt
That hurt
that
them.
hurt them a lot. Letting go of Christian Wilkinson is another big move for them. Um, and you know they bought in. They had one of the fastest running back rooms, and now they only have Devon A. So um, I think he's definitely on the hot seat. I think he could possibly go back to being a coordinator somewhere
Mm-hmm.
once he eventually loses that job.
All right. Got 2 more for you. The lack of investment on defense makes the Bengals miss the playoffs again.
I'll go with fact because the AFC is a very strong conference, just like the NFC. It used to seem like the NFC was the more competitive one, and the quarterbacks would lead the AFC and their teams. But now it looks like both conferences are pretty fair when it comes to competition. Um, with that being said, you overpaid a lot of people on offense. Um, they don't have a de facto running back one. Uh, they haven't addressed much
Well,
on
they had
defense.
Chase Brown, who was solid.
He's decent, yeah, but they haven't really addressed anything on defense. You haven't shown any much loyalty to the guys on defense either. Um,
Trey Hendrickson,
yeah, Trey Hendrickson,
who led the league in sacks.
and you're not gonna bring him back. Um, yeah, I think they definitely they definitely are gonna miss that window, or if not, they'll be one of those wild card teams that's a first early exit because they don't have that defense to compete. Now
Mm-hmm.
we could be proven wrong because, like I said earlier, when we were
But
talking about schedules,
it's hard though because the Bengals were averaging almost 30 points a game, and they
yeah.
still finished with a negative
And that was the
record.
thing; they were having high scoring games, but because their defense, they're able to put it on the offensive side, but their defense was giving up so many points last year. So yeah, we might see that reoccur this year as well.
Right. Well, this last one's for you. Even if healthy, The Niners still don't win the division this year.
I don't think we're gonna win the division. I don't know who the division winner is, other than the Rams. Um, I'm not giving it to Seattle, and I'm not giving it to Arizona.
I don't give it to Arizona at
Uh,
all.
I think the
I
Rams.
you would need a 2019 Kyler Murray year
Yeah,
for the Cardinals to get there. I think the Cardinals just got to move on from Kyler.
yeah,
I think it's time you move on from him
yeah.
because he obviously hasn't been the answer you're looking for.
Um, we do have the most favorable schedule, so that's
Yeah.
already in our
The
corner.
easiest schedule in the league.
Yeah. So from projection, it looks like we should dominate this season. Um, Due to the talent we have that's available, we should also dominate for that reason too. Um, but I'm a realist when it comes to this team. Um, I I do think we'll have a strong showing. I do think we'll make the playoffs. As far as us being a Super Bowl candidate, I don't know. I don't know. That I said before, this window is closing. It's getting close to closing, especially with the fact that they're playing around with Brock Purdy's contract right now.
Mm-hmm.
We lost so many people this year. We might lose just as many people next year
If
too.
not more.
So obviously, you retain who you need to retain. You address the contracts that you need to that you feel will keep us afloat. But uh, as long as I keep the drama away, just sign who you need to sign. I keep saying, man, just get the Brock Purdy contract done, and we'll be good. We don't need to go into the start of the season with that still pending. So, uh,
All right.
yeah, I could see us, if not running away with the division, we'll be a two.
All right. Well, that's it for Fact or Destroy.
Right?
All right. Up next, we're gonna dive into a little bit of boxing.
Yeah.
I know boxing isn't something we've really touched on this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, but like we said before, we touch on everything. News broke the other day about Manny Pacquiao's return.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? I
Um,
believe Pacquiao was 45, 46.
I think it just draws eyes back to the sport, right? Um, Boxing has been one of those sports that, other than those big names that not a lot of people know, because not a lot of people keep up with boxing anymore. Thanks to the influencer boxing scene, you got some eyes back on the sport.
Yeah.
Thanks to guys like Jake Paul. The mainstay is Canelo as far as Mexican boxing, and the best selling events when it comes to boxing. You have the Riyadh seasons. They put a lot of money into the sport, making the fights get done. We've seen the two fights between Usyk and Tyson Fury. Um, for for a lot of years, it's been one of those sports that just has died out.
Yeah.
But it's starting to rekindle, and by bringing names, no matter what the age is, people are going to tune in to a Pacquiao fight.
Yeah.
I think the negative connotation that it has being for a world title that's produced by the WBC. I can't remember which weight class it's going to be at, but the fact that it's for a world title is what a lot of people have brought negative
Yeah.
side into it.
Yeah. And do you think most of that is because of his name?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At the end of the day, now boxing is about who are you, what have you done. It's not more so about you're on the rise. A lot of guys are tomato cans nowadays when it comes to boxing. Like a lot of the guys that Canelo fights, nobody knows them before, but they know them after. This guy he just fought, this Cuban dude, I can't remember what his name was. Nobody knew who he was. Now people do. He got paid. Same thing with Caleb Plant. Same thing with the Puerto Rican dude that he recently fought.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of these guys get garner name value just because they've shared the ring with Canelo,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're able to sell their name. Um, I know
Um,
there was just a super card recently with Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia all on the card.
mm-hmm.
Um, and that had some implications on it as well, as far as Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia's future. So there's eyes on the sport. and we can try to dive into that as much as we can with what we know. Um, but yeah, other than Pacquiao returning, it's kind of been announced for over a year now. Um, sometime around Hispanic Heritage Month, we'll be seeing Canelo taking on Terrence Crawford.
Yeah.
I believe Crawford is coming up in weight.
Yeah. So Canelo and Terrence Crawford is scheduled for September 13th,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same date as, I don't recall what pay per view. I believe it's UFC 320.
Mm-hmm.
It will occur on the same date as the pay per view.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this brought a lot of attention to Canelo because I know a lot of people feel Canelo has cherry picked all his fights as of recently.
Yeah.
But when you fight someone like Terrence Crawford, that and Canelo wins that fight,
Yeah.
that is just gonna put the staple on Canelo
Yeah.
because we already know Canelo's a great boxer. He's
Yeah.
probably the greatest of this generation.
Mm-hmm.
But his lack of opponents of who he's fought, I believe he lost his fight to Triple G.
Yeah, I want to say the only two losses that he has is the
Yeah,
fight against Triple G
and then he
and
lost.
Mayweather.
He lost. I want to say he lost recently
No,
too.
Canelo hasn't lost since the Triple G fight.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
then
I want to say he only has
some boxer lost
yeah
recently.
he only has two losses on his record, and that's Triple G and Mayweather. As far as I know, from memory, those are the only losses that he has. Obviously, we can look that up, but I the problem with Canelo is that he's fighting people that are contractedly given to fight him, but he hasn't fought the guy that everybody has been clamoring for him to fight over the last year, and that's David Benavidez. Um, they're around the same weight. Reason why Canelo won't fight him is because Canelo doesn't want to fight another Mexican
He lost
boxer.
to Dimitri Bivol.
Oh, he did lose to Bivol. Yeah, then that's his most recent loss.
Yeah. Um, according to this, it says that he did not lose to Triple G.
I want to say they had a trilogy. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Unless it was an exhibition, but
Yeah.
could be wrong. I haven't really kept up with boxing like that, so I personally wouldn't know. If
Mhm.
you guys want to comment on that, go ahead and let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And also let us know what other boxers that are possibly out there y'all want us to tune into.
Obviously, Stockton hometown hero Gabriel Flores,
Yeah.
who is 26-2, I believe, in top
Hmm.
rank.
Yeah. He's brought some attention here. We've had
We had
uh
the fight at the arena.
yeah, he's fought at the
His
ballpark as
Yeah,
well.
his last fight was over up in Jackson at the
Hmm.
Chicken Ranch Casino.
Yeah. So we got some local heroes. It's not just Nate Diaz out here and Nick. Um, but yeah, as far as boxing, we can try to cover. If you guys want to hear the social influencer scene, we can touch on that too. I know Jake Paul is set to fight the son of Julio Cesar Chavez. He's fighting the Junior. Junior is a former world champion. So this kind of just adds to the resume of Jake Paul.
I
Um,
think the problem with that was he has not fought in a few years, and he is about
yeah,
46.
he's pushing 50. So it's just another one of those things where Jake Paul is just adding names to his resume.
Yeah,
He can say that he's had his match with Mike Tyson. He's fought all these MMA guys, so he's fighting world championship boxers.
they're
They just they
just
just happen to be so far out of their prime. Um, but the reason why Jake Paul is taking this fight is because it's to continue to antagonize Canelo. He wants to fight Canelo. I want to say Jake Paul is currently bigger and fighting at a heavier weight than Canelo, but yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see that fight happen. I don't know if we'll ever see Jake Paul being a boxing world champion, but he's brought eyes to the sport. Say what you want to say about him. Say what you want to say about his brother. A lot of people that don't watch, wrestling watch because of Logan Paul. So the Paul brothers are doing something right for themselves.
yeah.
Yeah. As far as the heavyweight scene, a lot of people want to see Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. They feel like it'd be the biggest fight in British boxing. So many times it could have happened for the undisputed world title, and it didn't, because both men just wouldn't agree on contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole contract thing is what's ruined boxing, because guys don't want to fight each other unless they're getting paid and unless they're the A side or the B side. It's why we never saw Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder when they were both in their peaks as heavyweight champions. Um, I think another thing that ruins boxing is there's so many titles, even though they're still at the same
Yeah,
weight.
I
There's
I think
so many
yeah,
titles.
I think boxing needs to do something about that.
Yeah,
There shouldn't be a reason for someone to have 12 belts in the same class.
yeah,
I
like,
I think one thing I will give the UFC is they have their title situation
mm,
perfect.
yeah. I mean, other than the interim titles,
I disagree with
yeah,
that. I don't think there should be an interim because I
um,
mean you have someone like Ilya Taporia
yeah.
who we're gonna get into a little bit
Like the only reason
soon.
why you should do an interim title is because somebody got hurt, not because, like, let's say if you defend but you're injured and you got to be out for 6 months and you don't want to freeze the division, then okay, you do an interim title fight, but then you have that interim title mean absolute number one contender. Don't make the interim champion defend the interim title. That's what I would disagree with the most,
Yeah,
is defending the interim title.
yeah. So while we were talking about while I brought up Ilya Taporia, UFC 317, Taporia versus Charles Oliveira. Um, Currently, Taporia is a minus 300 favorite.
Yeah. Um, I
Uh,
know I've gone on record. I'm not a fan that the guy's getting a title fight. Um, he was just recently the champion of the previous weight class. I want to say that's it's not, is it bantamweight? I think it might
mm,
be.
does Oliveira fight at welterweight? No.
No, what's the weight class that Volk just fought at with Diego Lopez?
Uh,
I know it's not bantam. I forget what the
is
weight
it not
class is.
middleweight?
No, no, it's the class that's under light.
Lightweight.
There's bantam,
It's
there's
not feather.
there's
It's for surely not featherweight.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's the weight class that Volk just won at. Um, that's that title was won by Ilya Taporia. Um, Ilya Taporia then fights his last fight was against Max Holloway. Technically, he's the BMF champion, but it just wasn't for the BMF title. Um, Ilya Taporia did not defend the title, not once. He decided to vacate it and go up and wait. He wants the Islam fight, is not getting the Islam fight. Instead, he,
Instead, Islam has actually vacated the title to move up to welterweight.
yeah. So it's, I like, it's different in Islam's case.
Mm-hmm.
Islam is a defending champion. He's going up in weight. He's ready for the next step in competition. Topuria is not a defending champion. Topuria won the title and decided to vacate it just because he wants to go up and weight. I don't think that means that he should be de facto number one contender just because you were the champion in the previous weight class. He hasn't done anything against the lightweights. And
Mm-hmm.
he's going up against one of the best lightweights, a former champion in Charles Oliveira. So um, I hope,
Yeah.
me personally, that Oliveira defends the weight class and takes that title, because I don't think it's good for the sport that a guy can just win a title and then be like, well, I don't want to be in this weight class. I'm the best here. I want the next step in competition. Defend the title at least.
Mm-hmm.
Be a defending champion so that you can earn that option.
Yeah.
So, and then it's solid for Islam. I think it, we can touch on 317, but for the next couple months in the summer, we got some solid cards.
Yeah.
From 316 all the way down to 319, there's solid main events. We got Pantoja versus Carcara France. There's Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena. We
Woo-hoo.
got Marav versus O'Malley 2.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe that is 316,
yeah,
right?
so many fights coming up. There's Dricus Duplessis. He's supposed to face Chimaev for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which I actually think Shemaev is going to win that fight.
Chimaev's going to dominate for sure. Um, there's a fight that I'm missing here. Oh, and then the main event of 318, for the BMF title, we have Max Holloway going up against who will be his last fight, the Diamond, Dustin Poirier. He'll
Dustin
be
Poirier.
retiring. So we'll see if he
I
goes
would
out.
like to see Poirier go out on top.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's going up against an opponent that's going to respect him too.
yeah.
He's not going up against somebody that's going to try to finish him and make a name. Max Holloway is a household name. He doesn't need to go in and hurt Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
I think it'll be respectable competition, and it would be nice to see the guy go out with a title. Like, you can say what you want about the BMF title. It's kind of just like
A gimmick.
yeah. It's kind of just here's the brass ring, right? But he is one of the baddest motherfuckers. So it'd be nice for him to go out as the baddest motherfucker champion.
Yeah.
Um, and he's had a great career. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got some solid fights.
Solid tribute retirement. We might have to live stream that pay-per-view.
For sure. For sure. A lot of fights. And there's no main event announced for 320 yet. And like you brought up earlier, that's the shared date with the Canelo fight. So
I don't think there has been a shared date for or a specific fight announced for UFC 320 because I think that 320 fight is going to be the announcement of Aspinall and John Jones.
Yeah.
I think it's time. John Jones has to get up off his ass and defend that title.
And
It shouldn't come to a point where Aspinall has defended the interim title twice already.
Yeah.
Like it just book Aspinall and John Jones. That's what the fans want to see. We don't care what you want to do. We don't want to see Aspinall defend the interim title 3 times already.
And we don't want to keep hearing that John Jones is the greatest of all time when he's won the title against a subpar competitive fighter in Cyril Gane. At that point, Cyril Gane only was fighting for the title because he was the last guy to fight Francis Ngannou.
And then his only defending was Stipe Miocic, who was more interested in firefighting than actual fighting.
And that was only to add to the fact that John Jones has fought the recent contender for the heavyweight title, and he's fought the greatest heavyweight champion. But he has not earned the lineage.
No.
We have already talked about who holds the lineage. It's Francis Ngannou. Will the fight ever happen? Probably not. But Aspinall is the true heavyweight between the two. He respects the weight class. He's ready for the fight. That's if 320 is not the announcement, it may be Aspinall versus John Jones, and what a way for Dana White to stick it to boxing and Canelo, which we know Dana White likes to do. Yeah. Dana White likes to compete against boxing, and
what better way? Like if you're a boxing and a UFC fan, and you have to have them go between, do I watch Canelo and Crawford or do I watch Aspinall and John Jones?
Obviously,
and
we know who we're watching.
You're gonna watch. I don't care who you are. Yeah. UFC, in my opinion, is just because of the diversity in what you can do. You can wrestle, you can ground and pound, you can stand up box, you can use jiu-jitsu, you can use Dagestan wrestling, whatever the case is. Boxing is just it's just repetitive to me.
It's fizzled out because it's a one skill.
Yeah, like even kickboxing, like at least you can do something else. You can at least do something else.
Yeah. It's why all these other sports, and I know we've had, some of our followers say they want us to get into BKFC as well.
Shout out. Who said that again?
My boy Angelo the Goer. He's
he wants us to cover more bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah, we just need to get into
it. We're not very familiar with it. I've looked it up a little bit. I know there was a pay-per-view for it that happened not too long ago. Yeah. I just didn't watch it, but I will have to dive into it. And
there's a lot. There's grapple competitions. There's the new karate league that they have out.
Yeah.
Bellator, PFL, they're kind of all fizzled out. I can't remember the name.
I think
there was just recently a guy from PFL that just got released from his contract because he doesn't want to be there anymore. and he's set to debut in the UFC soon. I can't remember
Yeah,
his name,
I
but I seen
think
the
the
report.
biggest thing is it's very similar to the WWE in where you have all these guys wrestle for indie promotions.
Yeah.
They wrestle for third party promotions or whatever the
Mhm.
case is, but the end goal is to get to the UFC.
Yeah.
Because like in the WWE,
That's-
like wrestlers have said, they spend all these years in TNA. I know Joe Hendry is
Mhm.
supposed to make his debut with WWE.
Mhm.
They spend these years in TNA, in Ring of Honor, in AAA, but the end goal is the WWE at
Yeah.
the end.
And WWE gets a lot of negative flack because it's become strictly storytelling and not pro wrestling. Well, it's where the stars are made. It's where all the best wrestlers come to become better stars. Like you might see a AJ Styles match in the WWE, and he doesn't look like the TNA AJ Styles anymore. One, because he's older, but then he doesn't need to be that guy anymore. Now, kids will still buy the t-shirts, they'll
Because
buy the
you
gloves, they'll
had
buy
AJ
everything.
you had TNA AJ Styles
Hmm.
as the face of the company.
Hmm.
You have WWE AJ Styles
He's a cog in the system now.
as one of the guys
Yeah, yeah,
because you don't need those guys to carry.
yeah. And you see that a lot in the UFC. I feel like there was a period, a small period, where we went from so many big household names. You can bring up Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, Chael Sonnen,
Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir. And then after that, right before the Conor McGregor and the Ronda Rousey era, there's a small era where it's like people stopped watching UFC because there wasn't stars anymore.
Yeah.
And then okay, Conor McGregor brings eyes back to it.
Conor McGregor, it revolutionized the
Yeah.
UFC.
Then from Conor McGregor, you get guys like Colby Covington, you get Jorge Masvidal, you get Ben Askren, you get
and then obviously you had Khabib come in and he opened the door for the Russian wrestling.
yeah, you got John Jones fizzling from one era into the next one. You got women stepped up in competition. You got Amanda Nunes, and this is all thanks to Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is the one that drew all this attention of females um, fighting in the UFC. So it's crazy how it's evolved, and now it's one of the biggest sporting events. Like now, go I can imagine going to a UFC presser and going to a UFC fight is very similar, but in a small skew of like going to a Super Bowl. It's one of the biggest events in town. So many people want the hottest ticket to go to it, and just like people will drop what they're doing on a weekend because a UFC fight is on. Maybe not so much a fight night. It's kind of like unless it's a really great card, a lot of people ain't
Yeah,
coming together
like
to
I
watch
know
it.
the one fight night was Figueredo.
Yeah.
That was actually a pretty good fight to
Hmm.
watch.
But other than some of those like one-off fight night cards, those numbered cards, man, we drop what we're doing and we get together and watch those. Like we could try starting to live stream those, but we've watched so many UFC fights together in the last year because not only do we love the sport, but it's grown so much that it's become one of those things that you can't miss it.
Yeah,
And when it comes to boxing needing to compete with them, they don't. Well, it's been like over a month since we've last touched on some wrestling.
I think
Um,
last time we talked about it was
it was like the weekend before WrestleMania.
the week before WrestleMania, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah. So, um, obviously, we've had WrestleMania. The two nights have happened since some NXT events, and then Backlash has happened. I'm gonna just go on with WrestleMania. I could record a whole episode talking about that, but I don't want to drag it. I'm gonna give the whole show as a B. It kind of left me wanting more, and it was like I said on that last episode. Uh, it was one of those things that it felt just like WrestleMania was just thrown together last minute. Um, Especially coming off of the high praise that 40 got. 41 was kind of abysmal in
yeah.
how great it was.
I think the lack of that was the Cody Rhodes John Cena main event and
Mm-hmm.
how poorly it was ended.
Yeah.
But I understand why it ended that way.
Mm-hmm.
The storyline this whole time is John Cena wanting to ruin wrestling for
Mm-hmm.
us, and him getting the wins the way he does.
Yeah.
Now it's understandable why they booked it that way
Mm-hmm.
because they want to stay true to the story,
Yeah.
even if that means the dip in ratings.
Yeah. Um, it left wanting more as far as things that happened throughout the night. I know night one was pretty exciting when it came to that ending in that triple threat with Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins, with Paul Heyman aligning himself with Seth Rollins, and then leaving us wanting more. Then it comes to the next Monday night on Raw. You got former Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker joins them, and now they're a dominant trio. Um, but I've been keeping up. As of recently, I used to not watch like full on episodes of Raw and SmackDown, but I've been getting better at watching that, which I need to do with other sports as well. But I've actually been watching like the full 3 hours and the full 2 hours and a half of Raw and SmackDown. And what I can honestly say is that SmackDown is such a better product than Raw. Raw is so repetitive. There's so much of the same story going on, the same rivalries. The tag division sucks. As far as SmackDown, there's so much diversity on the show. There's so much different talent being showcased. Even the guys that you forget are in WWE will still get featured. And they've done just a better job as far as their main event scene. Um, John Cena kind of getting featured every now and then. Cody Rhodes still not back yet after the loss from WrestleMania. So it kind of leaves you wanting more. What I do think they need to address soon is that brand split between both rosters, because you do see a lot of SmackDown talent and Raw talent still share both shows. Um, they definitely need to get better
Yeah,
at
it's
doing the brand split.
definitely not like how it was before, where it was rare to see someone on Raw be on SmackDown or
Yeah,
someone on SmackDown be on Raw. Obviously, the only way you would see them actually fight each other was
Survivor Series.
no, not Survivor Series bragging rights,
Oh yeah, and the Royal Rumble.
and
That,
yeah.
those were the only pay per
Yeah.
views where you would see
And
guys
you
actually
remember,
cross paths.
you remember bragging rights. The main event used to be a tag team of Raw and
Hmm.
a tag team of SmackDown,
Yeah,
but now it's, in my opinion, they got into a point where they want to integrate both brands
hmm,
while keeping the separate brand.
yeah,
But I don't think it should work like that. I
no,
think if you're gonna have both rosters, just don't have a roster at that point.
yeah. I miss when it used to be like SmackDown exclusive pay per views or like
Yeah.
Raw exclusive pay per views. Like when Judgment Day would show up, you knew that it's a whole SmackDown pay per view, or like New Year's Revolution, a whole Raw pay
Yeah.
per view.
And I believe Bad Blood was Raw,
Yeah, that was
correct?
Raw too. You had Backlash being Raw.
Yeah.
You had the Unforgiven was Raw, I think. Yeah, there was so much. It was such a better time for wrestling fans. Now it's kind of just like all thrown together. So many people don't get used. A lot of your favorite wrestlers won't make it on the screen because you have a lot of the same stuff going on.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just feel like booking's a lot lazy. This Triple H era is kind of taking a dip after WrestleMania 41.
Yeah, because when the Triple H era took off, it took off.
Hmm.
But after WrestleMania 40, it's kind of felt like they're still kind of living off that WrestleMania 40 high that they haven't recovered from.
Yeah. Another big thing for them is that they recently purchased AAA, Lucha
Yeah, I
Libre. So
believe they signed 6 or 7 AAA wrestlers.
that's still rumored. It's not fully
Yeah,
confirmed because
I
there's a couple
know.
people that they rumored the contracts
Yeah,
around that haven't actually received a contract.
yeah, and I believe Alberto Del Rio is a confirmed one though.
He's the one that's not.
Oh, he's not.
He's the one that's not because of outside issues. The only reason why he'll be
Obviously, the
associated,
Thailand situation.
yeah, only reason why he'll be associated at all is because he's currently Triple A's champion.
Hmm.
But I don't. He hasn't actually received a contract yet. The one
Yeah,
that has is Hijo del Vikingo, which he was obviously featured on WrestleMania. Um, and he was at the presser for it too. He was the
Yeah.
only AAA wrestler that was at the presser.
Yeah. And I like how they're doing that. They're integrating these
Mm-hmm.
other companies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like how I know ECW was a part of the WWE,
Yeah.
but ECW felt like a whole different company,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you had ECW One Night Stand, you had RVD versus John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best. The whole crowd was booing Cena
Yeah.
and cheering for RVD.
Mm-hmm. It just felt like a different fan base.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did. ECW is very hardcore.
Yeah.
But I think them integrating, I believe I saw Joe Hendry supposed to defend the TNA
Yeah, he'll
championship
be
at.
defending the TNA World Title at NXT Battleground against Trick Williams. So even that they
Yeah,
have.
like the fact that you're bringing in another company champ. Obviously, I don't think he's going to lose that
Mm-hmm.
because you wouldn't want to risk
Yeah.
having the TNA championship in a WWE setting.
This is the second time that a TNA title is defended on NXT programming too, because they did defend the NXT Knockouts Women's Championship or the TNA Knockouts Women's Championship as
Mm-hmm.
well. So yeah, it's cool to see not only another promotion's title, but another promotion's top star get featured and in a prominent role.
Although in my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of Joe Hendry.
He's got a lot of hype. He's not the greatest wrestler,
He
but
I just don't like his character.
mhm. So we also got, there's going to be an NXT Worlds Collide pay per view with AAA. So that'll be solid too. It's going to be NXT talent, possibly some main roster talent against integrated with AAA. It'll be the first like show that they're all associated with.
Hmm.
I'm still not aware if they're going to have TNA talent. They're not confirmed. It's supposed
I
to.
would like to see that. I wouldn't mind seeing that. You get some main roster talent, some
Mm-hmm.
NXT talent, some AAA,
Yeah.
some
TNA.
no AAA TNA.
Yeah.
You just get one big massive
Yeah.
universal pay per view.
Oh, they actually will have another integrated pay per view, but it will be produced by AAA. Their Triple Mania, which is kind of like their version of WrestleMania,
Hmm.
they're gonna have WWE talent and TNA talent. So even though the WWE version Worlds Collide won't have TNA talent, the AAA show will. Obviously, it'll be in Spanish unless you're a Spanish speaker. Tune into it.
Hmm.
Um, they do stream some English versions of Triple Mania. I just don't know what platform streams it.
Hmm.
But yeah, that'll be solid too because you'll get to see some WWE people in the house. So
Yeah.
um,
Imagine Triple Mania is going on, and then all you hear is the,
man,
and then everyone starts going.
the ones up, they'll know. But yeah, that's gonna be solid. Um, Aside from that, recent debut, they got Jeff Cobb from New Japan Pro Wrestling, recently debuted at WWE Backlash. Um, he'll be kind of an enforcer for Solo Sokoa, kind of in the
Yeah.
Jacob Fatu role. Um, and then I was just going to say that I feel like NXT booking has been a lot better than the main roster booking,
Oh yeah,
as far as
for
like
sure.
development of stars, the people that they produce, like they turn in, like all of WrestleMania, other than household Ruthless Aggression names, they were all NXT talent.
Hmm.
Like from years before, you got so many people have been produced by NXT, and they all take up the WrestleMania card.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about overhyped people, but even Roman comes from the NXT tree. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's solid where the direction that WWE is going, but they definitely need to get a grasp of their booking.
Yeah.
A lot of the pay per views seem rushed, but we have I want to say Saturday night's main event will be this Saturday. Logan Paul challenges Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight
Hmm.
title. Um, then after the next uh, event, will I believe it's going to be a double dual weekend. They'll have
Hmm.
NXT World Collide with the AAA talent, and on the same night they have Money in the Bank.
It's gonna be interesting to see how they figure that out.
Well, it's the same thing that they do for like the Stand and Deliver show and
Hmm.
and the WrestleMania night one. They just do one earlier. So I think that World Collide should get its own slot, but they will be sharing it.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for wrestling. Like I said, I could have got into a whole episode of WrestleMania and what I felt was lacking in the show, but you kind of get a breakdown. And I'm sure on the next episode I'll have some stuff to say about, uh, the Saturday night's main event, where wrestling is at in that week, and then see where the build is for Money in the Bank and NXT Worlds Collide.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be it. Make sure you, if you're not listening to us or watching us on YouTube, that you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. We obviously upload YouTube Shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Share this with your friends too. I'm sure they would appreciate a little bit of
share, and
a little
subscribe,
bit
man.
of ball knowledge. But with that being said, I'm your host Jay.
I'm your boy Chris. Hey.